Good evening and welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Haug, and I, along with my two co-directors, handle the Startup Grind organization in the state of Maryland. And I want to welcome you this evening to our ongoing webinar series called Bridging the Gap to Web3. And tonight, our episode is titled The Power of Community. And without further ado, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to our hosts, Mr. Connor Boundy and Mr. Luke Pillarello.
Everyone, welcome to our next episode of Bridging the Gap to Web3. My name is Connor Boundy. I am here with one of our co-founders at Atlantis Capital, Luke Pillarella. Man, we are excited to chat with you all today because we have had a last two amazing episodes. I mean, the last one was a lot of fun talking to Demetrius and David. I don't know what you thought, Luke.
Yeah, Connor, last episode was an awesome experience and a joy to have those two individuals on this series. We were able to bring together Demetrius Neocleos from VeChain and David Guyland from Dominant Creative, where we really talked about the hype that's really going on in Web3 and actually, started to go beyond the hype and focus on, what's really going on behind the scenes that's not necessarily being talked about in mainstream media per se. We were able to, uncover their stories, various marketing strategies that both of them implement, and also discussed a bunch of NFT use cases in the real world. If you weren't able to view the recording yet, go out there on YouTube, find us at Bridging the Gap to Web3, Beyond the Hype, leave us a comment, let us know what you think.
And since that last episode with VeChain made some big moves. They launched a $100 million partnership with the UFC over the next 5 years to get VeChain in front of 900 million households worldwide. So extremely excited to see what that's going to do for the entire VeChain community, getting more eyes on that. And of course, the entire Web3 community, because of more partnerships like that, getting people introduced to things like VeChain, Safe Haven, Web3 in general.
Yeah, I want to focus on a particular word that you're mentioning there, Connor, and that's community. I really feel that all of us have a longing to belong, and that's the fundamental core of what communities are about. And so that's what we're going to uncover today. We're going to uncover the power of community and focus on what communities really are, how do they differ between the Web 2 and the Web 3 environments, as well as why the power of early adopters is so important and crucial to the success of businesses and projects at the end of the day.
And the best part, we get to keep building on kind of the first two episodes that we've had. We started with Safe Haven within the VeChain ecosystem, then we brought on VeChain themselves. And now we get to bring on one of the founders of one of the top NFTs within VeChain. And that founder is going to be chatting with a absolutely brilliant Web2 community leader. And I guess without further ado, Luke, let's bring on our speakers. Let's get them up here and get introduced to our audience here today to join us.
I couldn't agree more. Let's get started here. I'd love to first introduce our Web 2 guest, Debra Albert. Debra is the longest standing circle leader for Lean In, as well as a network leader of Lean In New York, where she runs a community of roughly 6,200 individuals around women in business at the end of the day. Debra, alongside of this, is a partner of a global professional or global corporate training firm, as well as a co-founder of a soon-to-be launched startup called Scout AI. On top of that, Debra has 15 years of experience in sales, marketing, and professional development. So, Debra, welcome to Bridging the Gap to Web3. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and I'm so excited for this conversation. So, thanks for having me.
Of course. It's always a pleasure when we get on the line together. Now next, I'd love to introduce our Web3 guest, and that being Nero. Nero is a crypto enthusiast and the de facto leader and founder of V Apes. And for those that don't know what V Apes is, it is one of the leading NFT projects on the VeChain blockchain. Nero, really dedicates most of his time to running this community and firmly believes that blockchain will help bring us all a better future at the end of the day. And in his free time, Nero enjoys soccer, video games, traveling the world, and most importantly, being a father to his 2 kids. So Nero, welcome to the series. How are you doing today?
Hello, Luke, Connor, Chris, Debra. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a real privilege to me. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun today. Thank you for the invitation again.
I couldn't agree more. And something that I do want to call out real quick is that Nero is our first anonymous speaker on our series. So we're really tapping into all of the Web3 characteristics. So today's going to be a joy, and I'm really excited to get us started here.
And one thing to disclose before we get started is Luke and I are, and along with Chris here and some other members, are all Mad V Apes holders of their NFT project. So want to disclose that as we get started. And I guess, Nero, we'll kick it off with you. What are you most excited to talk about on today's episode? I know we're going to be covering a lot.
Yeah, I know. Well, Connor, I'm very excited to talk about the importance of the community because I think timing is perfect right now.
Yeah.
People are not having a good time these days, so it's going to be very important to show everyone our strengths and how can we learn from our weaknesses. So also I'm very excited because we're going to talk about two of my biggest passions, NFTs and communities. So yeah, it's going to be, like I said, we're going to have a lot of fun. And yes, that's it, man.
And I like that you said that it's kind of been a tougher time recently. I mean, I know I woke up this morning and the market's bloody red, and I don't think anybody missed that. And I think that everybody's been going through some tough times with it and really asking themselves, why am I here? What am I doing? Because maybe the financial incentive isn't necessarily front and center anymore. We'll talk about that later. But Deborah, I'll toss it over to you. What are you excited to talk about today on the episode?
Well, first of all, every time I get a chance to talk about NFTs or anything Web3, I'm just so excited and fascinated because I'm kind of a newbie at it, but I'm so passionate about learning about it. So, and community is also something that's very important to me. I've been running my Lean-In community for 9.5 years, and it gives me a lot of joy. So I think it's a very important part, especially since COVID, because we all know this. Isolation, everybody wants to get back into some kind of community. And so if it's online, offline, a mixture of the two, it's important.
And obviously, you've seen what makes your community so successful. I mean, you are the world's longest standing circle leader within Lean In. That says something. And I think there's obviously some core elements that you've probably come across within your career that make up a successful community, or really just make a community in general. And I'm curious, in your opinion, what are some of those core elements that make up a community in your eyes?
So I think it's interesting when you ask about community, because I run a community of about 6,200 people. Yeah. But I'm also thinking about when I was the boss of a team in a company, and that's a community too. And I don't get to speak to my 6,200 and some members. I do send out surveys occasionally, but you know how surveys are. Not that many people really take the time to fill it out. So what I can tell you from my experience leading teams is, for me, I think it's been always about transparency and just being very real and very open. And there are times I had to be the bearer of bad corporate news to my team. And I just laid it on the line and said what was real, and they appreciate that. So they stuck with me. I think if you have a leader of a community that can effuse the passion to the members and keep that constant, I think that's a big part of the glue, along with shared vision, a similar passion, good content and programming. That all has to happen. A common sort of meeting place if it's in person, or a platform if it's not. So, I mean, there's some core elements that exist in any community.
do you think there's one that stands out from the rest that really makes those communities kind of successful? Obviously you covered a couple things there, from accountability to kind of support to even just general engagement and bringing people back. But is there kind of one element that you see in more successful communities rather than less successful communities more often?
I think that's a kind of a Baskin Robbins answer, if you know what that is.
Oh yeah.
For those of you who don't, it's an old-fashioned ice cream store chain that had 31 flavors, and that's because you cannot appeal to everyone with the same thing. So I think a lot of it has to do with programming, and the content that you are disseminating, and keeping a pulse on your community. It's kind of like in a business situation, if you something doesn't go right, you kind of want to do a win-loss analysis kind of thing. And so if you're constantly tapping into your community and really on the pulse of what's going on, so that you pivot, just like any business would, if they're smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Deborah, you hit on some really core themes there. I loved the transparency. I love the shared vision, right? They're able to be more owners instead of just members, right? Getting down to that root. And so I'm really interested now to kind of turn this over to Nero for a second. As you're an anonymous founder, right? You're the de facto leader of this large NFT community of over 1,000 members now. Like, how do you feel the community of MVA, Mad V Apes, has held you accountable, and how are you working with the community team around you to kind of hit on some of these core themes of shared vision, transparency, communication? As you are anonymous at the end of the day. I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, you're right. Well, actually, I think we need to have trust, honesty, passion, vision, and transparency in everything you do, because people put the trust their money because they believe in what we're doing, so we can fail them. I think everything must have a process. First, you need to be surrounded of the right people who support you as a leader, because that will make a real difference. People who can trust and share the same goals. That's why I decide to have this community team,
Yeah.
because they need to get involved in what's happening in the decisions. Uh, I think we need a real balance in our community, in our project. We need to have members who can speak up for the community, take decision, and share with us their vision. Because as a founder, I have my own vision, but it's important to understand how the community feels, because they are a very important part, right?
Yeah.
So they are, the community teams are, for me, they are true leaders, that help me in this process of creating this great community. And to me, have them, it's something that makes me very happy every day, because they are people who I can trust, and I don't know them,
Right.
in real life. And so I think in our case, it's all about trust. But for me, trust is very important. In real life, I
What
think
are
I can fail anyone.
Yeah, what are some strategies or tactics that you've used to kind of help deliver that trust, down from the top all the way to someone new that joins the Discord? How are they able to kind of feel that they could be a little bit vulnerable in this community, even though you don't know everybody there, right? Some people
Right.
have images as their profile pictures, others have their NFTs. So I'm curious to know if there's any strategies you've deployed, or your thoughts there of really how you've built this trust within the community.
Well, I think you have to deliver everything you promise.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, in my first interview months ago, I said I was going to create a project around a true community, and that's what we're doing right now. For me, that's the most important. Every time I take a decision, it's based on what's the best for the community, not the best for the team. Uh, so I think that's a real, let's say, a strategy, because I don't have like a real strategy for that. But I don't know. For me, like I said, it's very important the people who trust in me. I know they don't see me, but I expect to show them with my acts. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm doing.
it's that same theme that we always go back to. Not only are you talking the talk, but you're walking the walk at the end of the day, and that's really where you're able to kind of build up that trust within kind of this community that you're building. So
And I think
Yes.
it's
Absolutely.
extremely unique with what you did with just the way you brought in community members to truly be part of the team. I think a lot of projects within Web3 preach we're community driven, we're this, we're that. You consistently have volunteers within the community step up, taking actual positions, driving the entire project forward. And I think that's really exciting, especially because you've done it from the early adopter perspective with a few of these individuals. And so, Deborah, bringing it back to you, I'm really curious how you've interacted with some early adopters in your community and what some of the benefits of being an early adopter is and kind of how are you rewarding them?
That's very interesting and a multi-part question. First, I have to go back a step and give a shout out to my advisory board, because there is no way I could run the network and do all the programming that we do, et cetera, without them. No way at all. And so I was remiss in not saying that that's a really big part of a good community. So early adopters, it's interesting because I think with my sort of Web 2 world and lean in, people join, and let's face it, it's mostly women, yeah, mostly professional women or women that want to be in the professional world. They join for so many varied reasons. Often it's they're looking for a job, so they want to network. Often they're looking for mentors and or advice on how to climb up the corporate ladder, or they have some real serious negative issues that a lot of lean in deals with, like unequal pay, sexual harassment, not getting that promotion, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's so much data to back that up. It's crazy. So what happens is, it's not that necessarily everyone stays engaged. So for the person who really wanted to meet new people because they just came into town, they make a few friends, they start their new job in their new city, and they get busy. So they're not so engaged. And that is a problem, I think, for certainly everyone that I know around the world who run networks in Lean In. It's the nature of the organization and what it promises to be. Not a bad thing, just what it is. In terms of early adopters, I have 2 women on my advisory board that are actually a part of my specific Lean In circle. So a circle is a group of women that meet monthly to discuss whatever. And these women have been in my circle for like 5 and 6 years, and they stepped up to the plate. I asked them, but they said yes. They didn't say like, "Oh, volunteer for you. I want to do something." But I got to tell you, the women on my board, all of them, along with the 2 who I've known for a very long time, in that capacity, they really are stepping up to the plate because they're really, really admirable, substantial women. And, they don't have a lot of time, and yet they're dedicated and they do what they're supposed to do. It's amazing. In terms of the benefits of early adopters, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. The only thing I can think of is they get the benefit of the programming that we offer as long as they're still interested in it. And I kind of think if I had leaned in an NFT world, I'm sure between Nero and myself, we could come up with some really interesting ways to keep people engaged and to give them certain kinds of benefits that today don't exist in my lean in world.
And before we hand it off to Nero to kind of weigh in on that, do you think there's a reason why those benefits might not exist today in your world? If you are to say it might be one, it might be a couple things, what do you think the reason is that those early adopters aren't getting the potential benefits that they might deserve?
I think it's because their lives, the focus in their lives change. That's what I hear when I'm on these sort of big worldwide calls for leaders around the world. It's pretty much the same situation kind of everywhere. It's kind of like where am I at in my life and what can help me in my life now, and it gets satisfied or doesn't, and people just kind of flow in and out, in and out. And I'm proud and happy to say that there are a lot of members that I know they stay because of our relationship. So
and really, sticking to that theme, right? It's like developing these strong relationships is where you're going to have that person always coming back, right? Like you said, you're developing these strong programs where they feel that they're getting value to hit some of their needs, right? Think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, where along that spectrum are you kind of plugging in with your lean in material that you're displaying at the end of the day? And now I'm curious to kind of turn the tide here, right? Like, let's think about what's been going on in Web3 and kind of how these early adopters of these NFT projects or these tokens that are being released, how they're being rewarded. So, Nero, with some of the early adopters that have joined on your team early on, joined in the Discord early on, how have you kind of been rewarding these adopters, and what have they been doing to bring value within the community? I'm curious to get your perspective there.
Well, that's a very, very good question, man. About the utility. Well, we have created my first utility, and I think it's the best one is you find this place, this community where you belong, so you can spend time. I see each NFT like a membership, which give you access to a community, to a member. And I think that's a real value for an NFT, a PFP, because we have a different type of NFT. We have the PFP, which are the profile pictures, and that's what why we create the Mad V Apes. So I want to see it this way. What is the real value of a Jpeg? And I can talk about the biggest project outside, which is V Apes. And we have seen people paying thousands and thousands of dollars for that Jpeg, for an NFT, but they're actually not paying just for the Jpeg or the NFT or the ape. They're paying, sorry, to be part of that community. That's what they want to. They want to wear the V Apes hoodie. That's why people are paying. So that's what it's really important in NFTs. Um, you know, um, in this crypto world, almost everyone is anonymous, like me. This is why these NFTs, I think, are very important for everyone, because these JPEGs represent each one of us. These are our identities inside this crazy crypto world, because we're like living in a crypto metaverse. We are different than we are in the real life. We have a new crypto social media. We have different names. No one knows their name, or they don't need to know that. So like I said, I think about these NFTs as a membership, and this membership will give you access to the community, and the community will give you certain types of utilities. We have created a few utilities. I see the utilities like a gift. Like when you buy a Mad V Apes, let's say the Generation One, we're going to give you a new one for free. So you're going to have two now. We have created several events to, let's say, play with your NFTs, where you can trade them for a new one. Um, we're trying to see utilities in a different way, because most of the people see utilities as you're going to receive a passive income. And it's true, we can do it, but we need to create a true value behind that before giving a more complex utility. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, I think that it's interesting how you think about NFTs, right? Because you're almost saying like, okay, you buy this Mad V Ape, right? If it's Gen 1, Gen 2, and now it's like you have your ticket into this new world at the end of the day, right? In this virtual realm space. And it's interesting to think that, you know, some people are there for the financial gains, other people are there for the sense of belonging, and you're really focusing on kind of how, you know, how can these holders become, you know, more owners in what you're trying to create. So I mean, Nero, have you, like, you know, created anything to where these early adopters have been able to, you know, become more owners and founders of this community, to where they're able to pitch ideas or kind of give their opinions and thoughts to help, you know, drive this community forward? What have you been doing to kind of, you know, allow these members to become more owners instead of just, you know, sitting on the sidelines?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, of course. What have you done? You know, have you created anything that allows these members, once they've owned the NFTs, to become more owners of the community, to where they can
Okay.
give ideas, you know, opinions, thoughts about where they would like the community to go, instead of just sitting on the sidelines?
Yes, exactly. That's the main goal of the project,
Yeah.
because it's like I said, it's like a membership which give you the power to vote, the power to change decisions. If the community thinks we're not doing something right, they can speak, and we're going to change that, you know. And yes, absolutely.
And I think that's super interesting there, because I think that's an element of Web3 that, one, attracted me and Luke to this space in general. We've loved supporting startup companies, supporting initiatives that we're passionate about. And this kind of membership that you're giving out allows people not only to be a member of something that they enjoy being a part of, learning about. You know, we've got this PFP game that we get to go and explore and fight each other in this, you know, NFT world. That's going to be a blast. But there's more to it. You can help kind of drive a actual business and project forward by just being a part of it and having a say, because you have that membership. Your vote counts. That's really cool. It's really powerful. And that truly makes you, you know, a community driven project, especially with the DAO you have that actually funds those initiatives once they get voted upon. So really interesting there.
Yes, that's why I think we have a big question. Almost everyone who don't know about NFTs always ask me why I can't just copy and paste a picture and use it like it's mine. Well, it's yeah, it's very easy, because you can copy, you can use it as your PFP, but it will not make you part of that community. You know, people will see you, and they will ask you, "Why are you using my NFT?" You know. So yeah, that's the reason. It's very easy to understand that part.
And everyone always says, why not just take a screenshot? Shh, now it's mine. Great. Well, go vote with it. Go
Yeah.
use your NFT to participate in those membership decisions, to get those free NFTs in your wallet because you own that. Is that screenshot going to do it? Nope.
Nope.
And what you and what you're doing here, you're creating almost that environment that facilitates that and does it in a very organized and secure manner where, you know, that's mine when I own it. And somebody's not going to take that from me unless I transfer it or sign off on some transaction to send it somewhere else.
Yep, exactly.
Can I weigh in here on something?
Of course.
Of course, Deborah.
It's really interesting to hear what you guys are saying to this point, because the whole concept of bridging Web 2 to Web 3, I'm thinking about how I've run my organizations and the company that I owned. And I think I was a little bit ahead of my time in the sense of, in the sense of all the things that we're talking about that are necessary, and giving people the voice, allowing them to participate in ownership, being able to express new ideas, etc. all of the best run corporations, when they do that, they are more profitable, they are more productive, they are more innovative. And that's a fact. And so the companies of yesteryear, like, well, I won't mention. I might have stock in some of those. Um, those companies that were dealt with that dealt from like a one guy upstairs and everything else trickles down. They're not so successful anymore, and they can't be in today's culture.
Yeah.
They can't be with the people who are coming up now professionally because they want different things. But what I'm interested to know is this. X years ago, let's say, when Facebook became really popular, and Twitter, everybody was all about, I'm standing in line getting a pizza. Not that many people really cared about someone else standing in line getting a pizza. And this whole idea now of blockchain and really being able to create your digital identity and have that not be fungible, it's secure, blah, blah, blah. And the idea of being anonymous, it's almost like a reversal that I hadn't thought about that until just this conversation. But the idea of not wanting to say, I'm in line for a pizza anymore, is kind of interesting. It's been a shift.
It's a shift, but still they want to be able to portray their thoughts and their value, right, to driving the project to the next level that they want to see it get to, right? It's that diversity of thought really that helps to create the real use cases within these individual projects. So Deborah, I'm interested to know. I know you talked about your advisory board a little bit, but how do you get and engage with your Lean In community to kind of tap into that diversity of thought? You said you sent out some surveys, but maybe that wasn't it wasn't super. I'm at the loss of words for what I'm looking for, but
not that many people responded.
Yeah, they didn't reply.
Not as many as I would have liked.
Right. So in your mind, right? Like, how can you better engage with your Lean In community to maybe get some more of their thoughts, to maybe change your programming or change your content to maybe align with what they want to see? I'm curious to get your thoughts there.
Well, there's one sort of quick way. There are many people that I have also a monthly interview series called Leaning Into the Future of Work. We do it on Facebook Live. And there are people that register for my interview series that are not part of the Lean In organization. Yep. They're not members of the community anywhere. And invariably, sometimes people will send me an email and say, how do I get in here? But it's difficult, actually, because if I'm putting messages out there, tell me what you want so I can satisfy your needs. And if I need to pivot with what I'm doing, I'll pivot with what I'm doing, because as Nero said, I'm there to serve the community. Yeah. One little way that I've sort of been doing it is when the last couple of interviews and workshops that I've had, I've actually put on the Eventbrite registration the requirement of answering the question, so what do you want to learn more about next? It's not a statistically significant sample because it's quite biased based on the subject of that particular interview. So right now, that's kind of where I'm at. Sending a survey to 6,200 or so people, it doesn't seem to be working. Newsletter outreach, a lot of the things that are very Web 2 world. Yeah. As I said, Nero and I are going to have some really good long talks, because I gotta figure out how to bridge the gap. For real.
And we'll definitely be having more of those talks, because you've joined the Mad V Apes Discord, and so you'll get to see some of those talks happen. Where Nero and his team, how they're keeping people engaged, it's actually super creative. They do not just like a weekly Twitter space where actually the entire community will come on once a week to talk in just an open forum, ask questions directly to the founder and the developers behind the scenes. Then on top of that, they do poker tournaments within the Discord. They have actually a bot where you can take your NFT and go fight someone else's NFT in the Discord for bragging rights. And so there's tons of things that they're doing to keep people engaged. But even though they're doing that, I think one of the biggest struggles, and I wouldn't even say it's really a struggle because you guys have been doing an excellent job, but it's growing your project, grabbing those new users and getting them into this ecosystem to experience the poker tournaments, the Twitter spaces, Harambe throws that are launched in the Fightbot. But we've got to find a way to get them in here and grow this community. So Nero, obviously Mad V Apes is still a newer project. I'm curious to learn more about how you have grown the community up to this point and what some of those barriers were to overcome the initial hurdles of adoption and getting people to actually engage.
Well, one of the barriers is that we are in a small community as VeChain is, and sometimes it's a big problem, to be honest. That's why when we promote our project and at V Apes, we also promote our whole blockchain. I think we don't see other projects as competitors or competition because I think we're building this together. So, create grow a community. It's really hard, really hard. To be honest. Yes, it's because you need to convince them that they are at the right place. You need to show them. Um, but I think we are in the right way. We're taking decisions, like you said, creating these games, this just for fun because we're not using real money in the poker tournament. We're trying to be in touch with them every day. I think that part is very important, because I've been in another NFT project, and it was impossible to talk with the founders or the team. You never know what was happening, And when I decided to create Mad V Apes, I said, well, I'm going to make things different. And that's why I'm trying to be involved every day. I'm every day in Discord, more than, I don't know, 6 hours a day, talking with the community team, talking with the community. People send me direct message every day, and I talk to them with all of them. Sorry, I talk to with all of them. Doesn't matter if it's something small or something big. Sometimes people tell me, "Hey, does my egg look good?" I tell them, "Yes, it's really cool. I love it." You have very basic conversations, and that's very important for everyone. And I love it. I love it. I love to talk to the community. Yes, I think that's a strategy to bring more people to be in touch with them. Uh, that's it, man.
And I like what you said there is we don't view other NFTs in our ecosystem as competition.
Yeah.
We're kind of working together to grow this.
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely interesting because that's something that personally Luke and I have started to see a lot more in the Web 2 world with startup organizations, where instead of viewing each other as competitors, they go, hey, we solve one side of the issue, you solve another. Sure, there's some crossover, but we're both serving that mutual in front of us. How can we work together to serve that mutual together and both get a piece of the pie? And I've seen a lot of organizations that have started to move in that direction see incredible success because they are bringing in all of these additional resources and expertise of, hey, somebody is really good in this area of focus while another to the one to your right. Well, because you have all of these individuals that are all working toward a mutual but bring different values, well, you satisfy every single job to be done that's in front of that individual, which is extremely interesting because then what do? If you satisfied every job to be done, where else are they going to go? They've got everything they need right here. And that's something the VeChain ecosystem has been doing a lot of, is collaborating with projects to your left and to your right to go satisfy needs of mutuals. And I'm curious, have you seen that start to evolve outside of VeChain as well? Because obviously you have started to do some collaborations with projects in Cardano, Solana, Ethereum. And do you see the elements of kind of this collaboration within a community exist in those other blockchains today? I'm curious on your perspective.
Yes, it's correct, Connor, because like I said, we have the MBA community and we have the VeChain community, but we also have this blockchain community and crypto community, which we are as very small, you know? So I think we need to start working cross-chain projects, cross-chain communities, working together. I think it's going to be the solution for everything. Yes, I think that's a way.
It's really trying to align with each other's strengths at the end of the day, and try to work towards that final goal that we're all striving towards. I mean, Deborah, have you tapped in from a lean in perspective into other organizations and tried to pull together, some events? Like, give us your perspective there. Like, kind of how have you, dealt with this partnership collaboration type, relationships, but through your experience with communities?
Well, I mean, it's so interesting, this conversation, because coming from the Web 2 world, I've said this before, Luke, when we first met, history repeats itself. It's just at a different level. So this is Web 2 and it moves like this. And then Web 3, it's just at a different level. Mm-hmm. It's always important to collaborate. It's always important to have a diversified opinion and thought. It's always important to reach out and help each other in the ecosystem, because all that happens is everyone gets lifted up. And in my training company, for example, that I used to have, we used to talk about training people in product management. And product management is literally nothing more than running a business inside of a company. And so if you look at the product manager as a CEO, if you will, or owner, founder, and if you I always talk about it like this: think of a spider web. Product manager's in the middle, and all the people on the team are around in other areas of the web. If you lift up that product manager, everybody else gets lifted up with them. And so we're not talking about anything different here. We're talking about the same business issues, life issues, emotional issues. It's all the same. It's just at a different level. So to answer your question, thank you, Connor, for the validation on that. To answer your question, I have reached out to other organizations, and I have reached out to other networks within Lean In. In fact, there was a wonderful event by a Lean In network called, I hope this is the right name, Lean In Latinas or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they did a fabulous event, a 2-part event, all about women getting into the business of cannabis. And so I partnered with them to do a few things, to cross promote, etc.
Yeah.
And it was very successful. I've reached out to other organizations where we have a similar audience, and we're trying to serve them.
Yeah.
So nothing has changed. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's been like a common theme that we've seen throughout this entire conversation is everything that Nero's kind of hit on. Deborah, I've seen you kind of laugh or chuckle or smile.
Yeah.
Where it's like I've experienced that too, right?
Right. And just in a different way.
Just in a slightly different manner. I think it's so interesting to call out these different themes and these similarities between what's gone on in communities really for kind of ever, and see how they're still being, how the issues are being solved differently in this Web3 world, to where it's like, to go back on it, like where we get to almost verify our ownership a little bit more than just where we stand in the Web2 world. So it's fascinating to me.
And Deborah, I think you made such an interesting comment, even in our pre-conversations leading up to this. One that stuck with me was this is really just a software update. Think about it as another update on your phone. Because everything that we were just talking about, all of the elements, very similar. It's just how we're getting there. That's the difference. And so I'm curious, because we're going through this update, obviously Lean In potentially could be clicking the button on their phone that says update to the next software.
Mm-hmm.
What would Lean In look like if it was more of a traditional Web3 organization versus the traditional Web2 organization that it is today?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I'm hoping that with the departure of Cheryl from Meta, she'll have more time, and she is supposedly going to be pursuing many more philanthropic pursuits.
Yep.
And Lean In is a foundation and a nonprofit. So I'm hoping that she steps in more. That's a really good question. One of the ways I could see it really benefiting the old Web 2 into the Web 3 would be solving a problem that actually got solved a little bit because of COVID. When I first started with the whole Lean In thing, one of the things I was told was that it was really hard to keep the community together because it was difficult to find a place to meet, a physical place to meet, because the idea was to meet in person once a month, support each other in a safe space, that kind of thing. And so I had a company and I had a conference room. So I said, I'll host, I'll be the leader, because that way I don't have to leave work early to go somewhere else. And it was actually, quite self-serving at the time. That made, at least in the early days, that made some difficulties because people couldn't physically get to where they needed to get to. So now COVID, video conferencing, Zoom, obviously, becomes much more prevalent. Problem is not solved, but it's better. It's mitigated. And I believe, because I believe in where we're going, that if we were to have our meetings perhaps in this metaverse world, that more people would get engaged. Actually, as I think about it, I would bet a lot on that being true, and especially because the Lean In members are more on the younger side than the older side. So they're less afraid of technology. The idea of putting on a Quest 2 is not like a totally foreign, weird thing to them.
Yep.
So they're more apt to try it because it's cool and different and new and exciting, whereas people who are less tech savvy are afraid of it. So they're not going to embrace it. So I think in the nearer future, I think being able to have these meetings with our avatars, et cetera, will actually increase engagement, at least until the next software update.
Web 4. And if we really want to go down the path, then you're talking about Jack, who's already working on quote unquote Web 5. We won't go down that yet.
No, it's so interesting, Deborah, because I couldn't agree more with the fact of how I potentially see Web3 interacting with Lean In is creating more of that centralized location for everybody just to meet more regularly. Like I know for the MVA community, right? We're all in Discord. Like it makes it super easy for anybody anywhere in the world, any time of day, to send a message in any of those threads, and somebody else is probably up and interacting in another way or else. And so, Nero, I'm going to ask you to kind of look at the MVA community and kind of flip it on its head. Like, how do you think that Mad V Apes would be different if it was a Web 2 product and community instead of in this Web 3 environment that's so virtualized and decentralized? I'm curious.
Well, I think that's a very hard question for me.
I imagine.
Because like I said before, our strength is based on this anonymity. So I don't know how PFP could work on the Web 2. I don't know. That's a very good question,
It's a challenging question and definitely asks you to think differently about what's currently been developed. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the PFPs and the anonymity definitely is different from what is currently done in the Web 2 world, but there's so many, themes that still are arising. Do you think that like a community where you bring together so many different people from so many different walks of life into one centralized area, like, how would you see that be developed in the Web 2, right? I think that we have some examples, but what would you carry over if you were to say anything?
Web 2, well, I think our whole plan would change if we were on Web 2. I think we were more like a people collecting cards, like
Yeah.
like a baseball card community collectors, something like that. I think because, like I said, the whole picture will change. Uh, it's very hard for me to see us as a Web 2 community. Um, yeah, it's very, very hard because, like I said, I build all these based on Web3. Like Deborah said, we update the software, So
Yeah.
everything we have built is based on this. Everything.
Yeah.
I
So
feel like
yeah,
I feel like you would almost become like a niche gaming community. Like I'm thinking of something like, I mean, these guys killed it, but like look at an entity like Clash of Clans, for example, where
Yeah.
you can still be anonymous in there, creating your, clan, your group of people you want to be with, but it really is just this niche little game. You don't have a place
Yes.
that you're going to go talk with the founder of the project of Clash of Clans and, hey, where are we going? What's the next update looking like? Hey, I have an idea. You don't get to do that. And that element would all be missing here. And so, looking at it from that perspective is always just so interesting for me because I never thought of also the baseball card and like card collecting analogy there too. You almost could be kind of one of those Magic the Gatherings that people go in and collect. But again, are you going to be part of driving the change within that? How things are going to happen in the future, how you want it to look? That is a key element that would be missing.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Connor.
For
You're
sure.
right. I actually used to play a lot of Clash of Clans, man.
I mean, who did? Breaking.
I didn't.
You just missed it. But I think we've covered quite a bit today. I mean, Luke, it's been an awesome discussion. And I know we're coming up on our time here, but I think we've got time for a few more questions.
Yeah, I think we just kind of wanted to. I see that we got a quick question in the chat that I wanted to bring up here as we're kind of are focusing on this Web3 into the real world. So, Nero, how do you see kind of Mad V Apes one interacting with the real world more, and what value do you really see NFTs kind of providing outside of the Web3 ecosystem?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm planning in the future to have these in real life meetings with our members. It's something we're definitely going to do because anonymity is great, but I think at some point we need to meet each other, with the community team. We need to talk about, because right now sometimes we're talking about personal issues or um, right now it's more than just a project. We're actually making friends.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think we're going to take our project, our community to the real life. That's going to be our next step.
So
Yeah.
you're almost going full circle, which is
Yeah.
but the thing is you did it for a reason. And I think Luke and I actually experienced this at the MVA community. Was we connected with two individuals at MVA that were living in Australia that we would have had no opportunity to connect with ever outside of this community. And we scheduled a 30-minute call just talking about some of the things that were happening within Web3. Call went well over an hour because we were so on the same page and couldn't stop chatting with one another. And it happened with Deborah and Nero on our first call that we put you two in the same room in. Is the conversation just kept flowing because we had like-minded individuals that were finally brought together. But we needed that community online to just get introduced to one another. And then take it to that step further where now we're going to try and meet in real life. And some of the applications I see you and your team kind of bringing outside of just the world of Web3, I mean, specifically in gaming, is allowing that, ownership of a character where, hey, my ape, I'm going to go take it to the gym. I'm going to work it out. It's going to go get stronger. When I go battle, guess what? I'm earning real rewards in real life that financially are looking pretty good. On top of that, I'm having fun playing a game with what you said, my friends, because my friends are now in that community. Luke and I have a lot of friends that are in the Mad V Apes community. And I think that number is just going to continue to grow because of the environment that you've built that allowed people to come to this playground and have fun.
Yeah. And I definitely,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chris. Chris, go ahead.
If you don't mind, could I hop in for a second?
Of course. Obviously, you're a Mad V Ape holder as well.
Well, I guess that allows me a seat at the table, but I'd like for the audience to think about the fact that you are attending an event that is about Web3 that's being put on by an organization that is leading the way to Web3. And the reason why we're here 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, before COVID, before we made that seismic shift, we were exactly like Deborah, and that is we were an all in-person events organization. Right. And we fortunately made the transition quickly, and it's if a whole new universe has opened up.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and say we've got 5 million community members. We've got 950 chapter directors and directors in 140 countries around the world. Mm-hmm. I've never been closer to them than I am today because of the work that we've done. And that being said, we are a Startup Grind as a global community also has 2 Web3 programs in the evolution. The International Startup Program, which 6,000 plus founders and startup team members who are communicating and collaborating. They've gone, 2,000 VC introductions, raised $4 billion follow-up because of this being part of the community. And we just announced this week that we're launching and onboarding our International DAO Accelerator. So
that's terrific.
I'd like to think that what you're saying about the Web 2 versus the Web 3, the networking versus the community, mm-hmm. is what we're working to take to the next level as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
I have a question, Chris. You said the networking versus the community. I don't see them necessarily as 2 different things. Networking is a way to meet people in a community. You can choose to sit back, or you can choose to, put your hand out, so to speak.
I misspoke.
Okay.
When I talk about community, one of our guiding principles, we live by 3 basic guiding values. We give first, we don't take. We help others before we help ourselves. And we look for ways to make friendships, partnerships, and collaborate, and not just, play business content games.
That's great.
So I should have probably made that distinction a little finer, but that's what I was talking about between really being part of a community, whether it's in person or online, versus just going through the motions.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it.
So as we kind of are, I know we're coming up on the top of our hour here. I wanted to just kind of reflect back on what we've all kind of discussed here today, and ask this one final question to both Deborah and Nero. Deborah, I'll first ask you, and then we'll transition to Nero. But if you were to recommend to our audience, say an individual is interested in starting their own community and building it from the ground up, what recommendations would you give to them while they're starting to spin up their endeavors from, building a strong community? What would you have to say to them?
That's a good question. I have to think about that for a little bit.
I love it. We
No,
stumped Steph
seriously.
up.
You stumped me. That's so rare. If I may, though, digress for just a second, I do want to say that obviously Lean In is not stuck in the mud and looking for a place to meet. We're all virtual. I have people in my community and women who come on to the Zoom meetings monthly from Tokyo, San Francisco, Mexico, etc. I just want to put that out there in case anyone's in the audience who wants to be a part of the Lean In organization, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very open, somehow get in touch with me and we can get you right in. I think, especially with the Web3 community, I would say, because I don't see Web2 and Web3 so differently, not at its core, right? Just a software update.
Yeah.
It's just like you can drive to California in a Rolls Royce and you can get there in, a Honda Civic. You're still going to get there, right? It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is to keep learning and growing and be a part of these communities and these communities of the future, because look, even though Bitcoin is only what, $24,000 today or something like that, it's way off from 62 or 4 or whatever it was. These software updates, these technological changes are not going away. They're not. They may morph a little bit. It's just like when any software comes out, right? They float it out to a community, if you will, and they iterate based on community feedback, and they pivot. Yeah. And keep learning, keep trying new things.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with the statement of get involved, right? Join into these communities and see what they're doing and really get to have conversations, right? If you're interested for these Web3 communities, if you're interested in Lean In, right? Come to one of these events and see what it's about and participate, right? Don't just, you can join and obviously, learn and listen the first few times, but get involved, give your thoughts, give your opinions, try to be more of an owner there. And so, Nero, I'll turn this over to you next. What advice, suggestions, recommendations do you have for somebody that's interested in starting their own community? What would you have to say to them?
Well, I think first you need to be part of a community. You need to learn what a community is. You need to learn what are the strengths of the community, see their weaknesses as a member. Then you will have the opportunity to make things better. That's what I did. I've been a member of a lot of communities, a lot of gaming communities, business communities, and I'm always trying to learn from them. I love to do it, actually. Also, when you are in charge of this community, you need to understand that you're not actually better than your members. You are at the same level. You're just like managing the community, let's say. Yeah, you're just like a manager, nothing more than that. So be at the same level, pay attention to them, talk to them every day. And I think that's the way you're going to build a true community. Of course, you must love to be in touch with people. That's the most important part of it. You need to love to hear people, talk to them, and hear them. Sometimes you're not going to hear good things because you can make something wrong too, right?
Yeah.
I manage a small community, I think, and I can please everyone because everyone have a different interest, or maybe they like another thing. But in the end, you need to hear them all.
Right.
And that's how you're going to make it. It's very important.
Absolutely love. I think you hit that on the head here, and I think that it was just fascinating listening to you and Deborah all day today. Come at the same topics and almost answer it the same way. Just getting there was a different path, but you ended up at the same spot. And I
Yeah.
think that's starting to show again what we've been trying to articulate to our audience these last 3 episodes is there's a bridge. We truly are speaking the same language. We've just redefined some things in this new software update. And we're trying to get back on the same page to say, hey, guess what? This is the definition moving forward and how we should actually look at it together. Now let's move forward because we're talking about the same thing.
Yep.
And so it's really exciting listening to you two have this conversation today. I think we got a ton out of it. I encourage all of our audience members to go check out Lean In. Go check out Mad V Apes. Go connect with Deborah and Nero. These are 2 incredible community leaders that you guys can use as a resource to do exactly what Deborah just talked about. Keep learning. Don't stop learning. Connect with these individuals and ask the tough questions. Come back to these episodes and participate in the chat. Challenge us. Ask why things are happening. And of course, connect with myself, Luke, and Chris afterward as well. But this was an incredible discussion today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Another amazing episode of Bridging the Gap to Web3, the power of community. But I'll hand it off to Chris to wrap things up this evening as we get ready to close out tonight. Chris, take it away.
Well, Deborah, Nero, Luke, and Connor, thank you.
My pleasure.
Another phenomenal event. It rings true with me and so many who are on this presentation because that's where we ultimately want to be. And I highly encourage everybody, if you would like to learn more about Startup Grind and our programs, please go out and visit us at www.startupgrind.com. You can sign up to be part of a local chapter. You can find them there. And if you liked what we've put on this evening, we would love your thoughts and your feedback. But more importantly, what we would like is your thoughts and comments on what we could do better. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending, and stay tuned because we're going to be back soon for episode 4.
We'll be back soon, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you all for a
Good night.
great evening.
Thank you all,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Everybody.
It's a pleasure.